Notice verse 17. Blessed is the man whom God corrects. So do not despise the discipline of the Almighty. Blessed is the man whom God corrects. Not cursed is the man, but blessed. If you're going through God's correction, God calls you blessed because you are on the verge of an increase. You are on the verge of a being lifted up, and therefore you are blessed. God takes us through crucible laboratory experiences in life to test us because He trusts us. And after we have passed that test, all that we have is walking with Jesus in heaven's highway. Chastening, friends, is not always the reason that God's people suffer. As we have seen, sometimes one can use this verse as a little dagger to put into the heart of a friend. It is a nice way of saying, you are having trouble because you've done wrong and God is correcting you. Well, that could be, but it may not be. Who are we to make such a judgment? Do we have a direct telephone line to heaven? Has the Lord revealed some secret to us? Some people think they have the last word on everything. Listen, friend, you cannot always speak to the problem of someone else, and someone else cannot always speak to your problem either. Although the statement of Eliphaz is true, it does not apply to Job. Verse 18, for he wounds, but he also binds up. He injures, but his hands also heal. God allows wounds only to bind up. God permits us to have injuries only to prove that He can heal. Friends, if you're wounded, if you're injured, remember, God will bind. This is His promise in His word. He will heal. His hands have healing. What a wonderful picture of God this is. From 6 calamities, verse 19, He will rescue you. In 7, no harm will befall you. You will notice this use of 7 again in the book of Proverbs, chapter 6 and verse 16. And in fact, quite often throughout the Bible. It is not just a poetic expression, it means 7. Not the number of perfection, the number of completeness. For instance, the 7th day was the completion of 1 week. 7 is the number of completeness here, as He gives the total spectrum of the trouble of man. From 6 calamities God will rescue, no harm in 7 that will befall you. Verse 20, the spectrum of the trouble of man. In famine, He will ransom you from death. In battle, from the stroke of the sword. 21, you will be protected from the lash of the tongue and need not fear when destruction comes. God, my friend, will deliver you in these 7 troubles. 1, in famine, He will ransom you from death. 2, in battle, from the stroke of the sword. 3, from the lash of the tongue. Famine, war, and tongue. The tongue has probably killed more people than all wars that have been fought. We need to pray that God will deliver you and me from the power and the evil of the tongue. You know, friends, the tongue has power, the tongue has poison. We can choose how to use it. 4, God will deliver from the fear of destruction when it comes. That is physical destruction, typhoon, tornado, storm, etc. Now you notice verse 22. You will laugh at destruction and famine and need not fear the beasts of the earth. 5, now, He delivers from famine. Have you ever stopped to think that generally, wherever the gospel has gone, whether or not it has been widely accepted, you find one of the prosperous areas of the world? You know, friends, the gospel is intrinsic with prosperity. You take the gospel and you will have prosperity. I don't mean material prosperity, I mean soul prosperity. Your soul will be bubbling to overflow with God's word, God's peace, and God's prosperity. Wherever the gospel has gone, there has been peace and prosperity. Now notice the 6th point. neither will you be afraid of the beasts of the earth, of wild animals. Verse 23. For you will have a covenant with the stones of the field. The wild animals will be at peace with you. You will know that your tent is secure. You will take stock of your property and find nothing missing. You will know that your children will be many, your descendants like the grass of the earth. You will come to the grave in full vigor, like sheaves gathered in season. Stones will make a covenant with you. Wild animals will be at peace with you. Your tent will be secure. Your property, you will find nothing missing. Your children will be many. Your grave will be full of vigor, because you will go to the grave with vigor. Now he says the seventh trouble, which is death. Friends, we have discussed all the seven troubles. Eliphaz speaks of death, not as an awful, hideous monster, but as something that we should welcome. There is a leveling out in death quickly. Now you notice verse 27. Eliphaz says, we have examined this and it is true, so hear it and apply it to yourself. He gives us a clear pattern of Bible study. Examine, hear, apply. First, examine, then hear it intently, and then apply it to your life. This also concludes the first discourse of Eliphaz. It has not met the need of Job, actually. You know, friends, when God caters, he caters to the exact center of our hearts. But man, his words fly into the air. It doesn't touch us at all. As a matter of fact, Job is now dismayed. He's alarmed. He cries out for pity. He cries out for mercy and for help, because Eliphaz has pushed him deeper into the pit rather than pull him out. Now we come to chapter 6, and here we would realize how Job answers Eliphaz. Verse 1. Then Job replied, verse 2, if only my anguish could be weighed and all my misery be placed on scales. If only my anguish could be weighed, my misery, all my misery placed on scales. You can see that Eliphaz has not helped him at all. Just to say, you have some secret sin. The thing for you to do is to confess that sin and get back to God is not always right, friends. Job is saying, you need to recognize what my question is, Eliphaz. Eliphaz had missed the point altogether. He had said a lot of nice things, good things, true things, but he didn't help Job, not even a bit. It is like giving the answer. Christ is the answer when you don't know the question at all. Now you notice verse 3, 4, and 5. It would surely outweigh the sand of the seas. No wonder my words have been impulsive. The arrows of the Almighty are in me. My spirit drinks in their poison. God's terrors are marshaled against me. Does a wild donkey bray when it has grass, or an ox bellow when it has fodder? The arrows of the Almighty, Job says, are in me. God's terrors are marshaled against me, and therefore his words have been impulsive. Job says, I'm crying out, and you have seen my misery. You have shown me no pity at all. You act as if I'm not in trouble. I wouldn't be crying if I wasn't in such trouble. The wild donkey brays for grass. The ox bellows for fodder. So Job is saying that he wouldn't be crying out if there were nothing hurting him at all. He says, I'm deeply hurting intensely. Is tasteless food eaten without salt, or is there flavor in the white of an egg? I refuse to touch it. Such food makes me ill. Notice the words of Job. What he's going through is tasteless food, and he's refusing to touch it. And he says, such food makes me ill. Now notice verse 8 in your Bibles. Oh, that I might have my request, that God would grant what I hoped for, that God would be willing to crush me, to let loose his hand and cut me off. Job chapter 6 verses 8 and 9. He has hit rock bottom. He finds no help anywhere. He actually questions the justice of God now. He is miserable. He wishes God would destroy him completely, get rid of him, let loose his hand and cut him off. Job wants to die. Verse 10, then I would still have this consolation. What consolation? My joy in unrelenting pain. For Job, unrelenting pain would bring joy. That I had not denied the words of the Holy One. What strength do I have that I should still hope? What prospects that I should be patient? What strength? What prospects? Hope and patience is gone. He's saying, I have nothing to live for. My only consolation would be to have joy in my pain, in my unrelenting pain. Then verse 12, do I have the strength of stone? Is my flesh bronze? Do I have the strength of a stone? Do I have the flesh that is bronze? I am weary. I can't stand it anymore, Job says. Verse 13, do I have any power to help myself now that success has been driven from me? Notice again, do I have any power to help myself? Success has been driven from me. Now listen to the cry of this man. A despairing man should have the devotion of his friends. He's crying for his friends, even though he forsakes the fear of the Almighty. Fear of the Almighty replaced by the devotion of his friends is what Job asks for. Verse 15 now, but my brothers are as undependable as sporadic streams, as the streams that overflow. Brothers who are as undependable as sporadic streams. The meaning in the Hebrew, the root language, is that they were like a mirage in the desert. This is beautiful. This is poetic language. It is as if he's saying that he looked down the road and he saw his three friends coming and he said to himself, oh, thank God, here my friends are coming. They will understand me. They will sympathize with me. Their sympathy would have been like an oasis in the desert, but it is only a distant mirage. Then verse 16, when darkened by thawing ice and swollen with melting snow, but that cease to flow in the dry season, and in the heat vanish from their canals. Notice, friends, thawing ice, melting snow, that cease to flow in dry season, and in the heat vanish from the canals. He says that they are like a pool that is covered with ice and snow. It is deceitful, deceitful. You think you can walk on it, you can walk on thin ice, but when you step on it, you'll fall right through. That is the type of friends Job's friends have turned out to be. What a picture Job gives us. Job's cry, friends, is the cry of the human predicament in our day and age. Man, with all his comforts, his gadgets, he still remains lonesome. How restless, how unhappy man is. He is, remember, the Anesh, the miserable one. He needs more than gadgets. He needs God. Now Job will say, if you have something to tell me, I'm still teachable. Teach me in verse 24 and I will be quiet. Show me where I have been wrong. How painful are honest words. Once again, how painful are honest words. But what do your arguments prove? Do you mean to correct what I say and treat the words of a despairing man as wind? Teach me, show me, Job cries. Treat the words of a despairing man as wind. He says, what you have said is good, but it doesn't touch my case at all. Your diagnosis is wrong. Remember, friends, that these three friends didn't really know God, they didn't really know Job, they didn't really know themselves, they didn't understand the true situation, and all three will come to the same conclusion, that Job had sinned and won't confess the truth. Job responds, would you treat the words of a despairing man as wind? They say, since Job won't confess his secret sin, Job is being punished. His tears are the consequences of hidden sin. But somewhere deep inside, he knew that when God permits something so extreme, he must have a very sure reason. Crying is common in this world. It does little to ask the reason for it. Friends, Job is in deep distress, in deep despair. He is weeping. He is proving to us, to himself, and to everyone around him that his tears prove that God is. God is, friends, and he can be known in every situation, in every circumstance of life. May God bless you.